Hi, my name is Carolyn Wing, and I'm going to be talking about food's role in promoting cultural awareness and diversity in America. Food is a necessity for everyone. I think people eat out so often, and people always find ways to, go out and eat. Especially we need it to survive. Huge thing. But what my argument is that food plays a vital role in promoting cultural awareness and diversity by introducing people to new traditions, shaping American identity, and fostering cross-cultural connections. So the restaurant industry in America is huge, but I want to talk about the ethnic family-owned businesses or the diaspora-owned restaurants. So not only it's a way to provide income for these families, but it's also a way to maintain cultural identity. So these local restaurants bring different flavors, dishes, and familial feeling that large food chains can't bring. It also provides job opportunities, supports local economy, and adds on to tax revenue. So I showed some local restaurants here that do a great job at promoting their culture while still selling to the American community. So cultural awareness and diversity, the understanding, appreciation, and inclusion of different cultural traditions, beliefs, and perspectives. So some key terms are like cultural sensitivity, so being able to recognize and respect and respond appropriately to cultural differences. And then cultural education is the process of learning about these cultures, values, and perspectives. So the influence of immigration on American cuisines. Immigrants have introduced so many new things such as spices, methods, and dishes. So like some spices like turmeric, saffron, some methods being stir-frying, fermentation, and then some dishes being sushis or kebabs. So food and preserving culture and traditions. I think these restaurants were opened not purely for venture or income, but it was a way to keep traditions alive, pass on recipes, and create a sense of home in an unfamiliar place. Data shows that over 40% of the restaurants in the U.S. are immigrant-owned, showing that there is direct impact on the American food culture and scene. The impact of immigration-owned restaurants. So there is the debate between authenticity versus Americanized versions of food, culture, and dishes. Same with cultural appropriation versus appreciation. So I think Americanized dishes can increase accessibility and appeal, but may also dilute cultural significance. And then for cultural appropriation versus appreciation, I think appropriation can erase or oversimplify cultural history. And then a huge example of that, or a big example, is like a non-immigrant chef may profit from ethnic cuisines without understanding or honoring their origins. So how food shapes American cultural identity. So America is known as a melting pot. Immigrant communities brought their traditional dishes, which often evolved through interaction with other cultures, forming new hybrid identities in American cuisine, such as fusion cuisine. So, fusion food is a combination of ingredients, techniques, or flavors from different cultures. For example, I put Korean tacos, sushi burritos, and chicken tikka masala pizza. How immigration shaped America's culinary hubs. So, on average, over these three cities specifically I chose because I think they are huge cities that have a huge immigrant population. So, on average, about 30% of the population in these cities are made up of immigrants. So these cities became culinary hubs through immigration, and with that, they have brought so many different traditions, ingredients, and flavors. So now these cities are staples of great food. So, for example, Chicago is influenced more by Polish, Mexican, and South Asian communities. New York is shaped more by European, Middle Eastern immigration, and Los Angeles has a huge Asian and Latin American influence. So the impact of trying new foods on cultural perception. Trying diverse foods can change how people see and relate to different cultures. So a study at the University of Toronto shows that found that exposure to ethnic cuisines increased cultural empathy and reduced bias. And then as people eat globally, they become more curious, open-minded, and appreciative of culture behind the meals. And then 75% of Americans say tasting food is their favorite way to learn about new cultures, shown by Pew's research in 2022. So the role of food in breaking cultural barriers. So I think food brings people together and serves as a bridge between different communities. So with that, there's so many food festivals and events such as Taste of Chicago, LA Smorgasburg, which feature different communities from different backgrounds. And there's also programs such as Global Taste and Food Without Borders, that use shared cooking techniques and dining experiences to promote cross-cultural friendships and mutual understanding. Challenges and misconceptions about ethnic cuisine. So how bias and experience shape perception. So stereotypes and misconceptions. So some ethnic cuisines are often misunderstood or judged based off stereotypes. So for example, too spicy, too unhealthy, or I don't know these ingredients, these are so weird. And then another thing, one dish does not equal an entire culture. So one bad experience based off unfamiliar flavor or just not a poorly made dish shouldn't influence one's opinion on a culture. So media and presentation. So TV shows, menus, or social media often simplify or distort dishes or foods, which lead to distorted views of those cultures. So undervaluing ethnic cuisines. So some cuisines are seen as cheap, dirty, less sophisticated, while others are trendy, overcharged, when rebranded by non-ethnic chefs. So challenges and misconceptions about ethnic cuisines. Does Americanization help or harm cultural appreciation? So my take on this is that I think an Americanized versions can be a huge stepping stone, but only when they spark curiosity or respect. So growing up, I saw how people loved Asian food, but would reference Panda Express, for example, which was a horrible example. It's not out of bad intention when they say that, but again, I think there's so many better ways to try one's culture. So some examples of Americanized version. Again, Panda Express versus traditional Chinese, Tex-Mex versus traditional Mexican, and then some dishes are fettuccine Alfredo, orange chicken, and California rolls. Food shapes how we see each other. It preserves history, shares identity, and breaks barriers. Through immigrant-owned restaurants, fusion dishes, and cultural festivals, Americans' food landscape tells the story of its people. And in the U.S., which is shaped by immigrants, cuisine reflects the stories, traditions, and identities of countless communities. I want to tell people to be open to trying unfamiliar dishes. They might open your mind to the stories behind those dishes. Support local immigrant-owned restaurants, ask questions, and don't be afraid to be curious. So thank you.